Hello and welcome to Inner Whispers Radio. This is episode 4. My name is Alan. I am your host. This show features April Crawford, who's a full-body open deep trance medium and author. And Veronica. Veronica is our name for a causal plane entity that speaks and writes when April's out. Veronica also does all of the telephone and in-person readings that we handle. So the format for today, the plan for today is I'm going to hand the phone to Veronica. We're handing phones back and forth. I'm going to hand the phone to April, and she's going to say a little something about her experiences. And then when she's done, I have some questions for Veronica, and we'll go from there. Hold on.
Hi, everyone. It's April. This is kind of nice because I never usually get to talk. I'm always the one that goes out and goes away. And so I kind of look forward to this every week where I get to give a little bit of my perspective about everything that's going on. And today I want to talk about the first time I did a phone session. As you probably know, my husband, Alan, tried to talk me into doing readings for people and doing sessions for the general public for a good 10 years. And I just simply didn't want to do it. I was, I'm too nervous, I'm too this, and I just don't want to do it. And so after about 10 years or so, he decided that he was going to, he had a friend who wanted to get a phone session. So he says, I'm setting up this phone session, and you should try it. Just do it once, just for me. And of course, I wasn't happy about it. I was not pleased one bit. But I agreed because I knew it meant a lot to Alan for me to pursue the channeling even further. Now, mind you, we were doing sessions for friends. We were doing sessions for family. Sometimes there were new people that came to some of those group sessions, but never had I, allowed Veronica to come through when we were doing like a phone session. It just never happened. So he set it up, and I remember it was a Friday afternoon. It was summer. It was a little hot. And all day before it happened, I worked myself up into feeling like, oh, my God, my stomach's a mess. I'm a mess. I don't know if I can do this. And Alan kept saying to me, well, you're not doing this. You're going to get out, and Veronica is going to come in. I said, well, yeah, but she's never done telephone before either, so what's going to happen? So I decided to brave it out, tough it out, and the phone rang, and, of course, my heart was in my throat. And I said, okay, Veronica, I'm leaving, good luck. And so I was out, I went. It seemed like a second. I mean, it felt like a split second. And suddenly I was back. Alan was taking the phone from me, and he hung up the phone. And I looked at him, I said, well, how did it go? And he said, it went excellently. The woman was very pleased with the reading. You can do this. And I sat there for a few minutes going, okay, well, maybe I can. So that was like the first time that I really felt, okay, I'm going to let Veronica take the lead. She knows how to handle this. She can do this. And I decided that that's what I was going to do, and the rest is history. Now we talk to people all over the world. I don't, but Veronica does. And a lot of people are helped by what Veronica has to say. So I have to say I'm humbled by that, and I shut up, step back, and say, okay, go for it. And that's like the story of my first phone session, and I lived through it to tell the tale today.
Okay, so now we will wait for Veronica to get here, which will take just a few seconds. She knows that we're doing these radio interviews. I can give you a countdown. She's here. Okay, Veronica, well, for this first segment, what I did, and obviously everybody knows this, I don't use notes. We'd be a lot more organized. But in this case, I jotted down some words which I consider to be conceptual. And I would like to ask you, Veronica, from your perspective as a causal plane entity, now they've had all these lives and stuff, what is it from Spirit's perspective for these words? And it could be just a couple words or more. Hold on for Veronica. I forgot to tell her the word. The first word is emotion. And there's a bunch of them, and they're in no particular order, just what I jotted down. So, emotion. Hold on for Veronica.
Good day to all of you. It is Veronica, and we have just been asked to give our perspective upon emotion. Emotion is the fuel that drives the participation in physical reality. Some people have a lot of it. Some people are sorely missing it. But it is a fueled moment that can offer varying degrees of experience with one subject. Like, say, you're going to participate in abandonment. You can be very emotional about it, or you can be very non-emotional about it. And that one topic offers an array of participation. So you can start with maybe 2% emotion, and then you can go all the way up to 1,000% emotion. It is the fuel by which your lessons are learned and the choices that you make to learn lessons.
Okay, that's actually a nice segue into my next word that I jotted down, and that word is choice. So, Veronica, what is choice from your perspective?
Choice is your ability to maneuver through anything by your own standard. The choice you make every day to get up, to go about your day, is your choice. It is a gift. It is something that allows you to move through the day going either right or left, doesn't matter. But by choosing, that offers you the autonomy to be in charge of your own life. If something's going well and you choose to be a part of it, then you make the choice. If it's not going well and you choose not to be a part of it, then that choice allows you to leave the situation. So choice, we think, is one of the most valuable tools you have in the linear reality.
Okay, Veronica, but just a follow-up on choice, because we get so many different emails and questions, and that is, some people are of the opinion that it's all destiny, so there is no choice, there is no free will, you're all destined, it's all fate, and you're essentially destined, or some people would say doomed, to follow a set plan, and there is no choice. How do you respond to that?
We agree that there is a blueprint, a sort of a plan that you come in with. But you do have choice whether you want to continue with the plan or abdicate the plan. Destiny is something that you create. It is not a written in stone moment that must happen in a certain way at a certain time on a certain day. You are always in charge of it, and you can choose not to participate in a blueprint plan that you might have put together before you arrived in the physical linear reality, because whoever is participating in that blueprint might not be participating properly. Or you just might decide that this is not something you're prepared to do at this time. So choice is always there. Yes, there is a blueprint, but it's a blueprint. It's not something carved in stone that must remain the same forever.
Okay, Veronica, the next word on my list is prosperity.
In the linear reality, prosperity is usually assigned the definition of having enough. Having enough money, having enough food, having enough clothing, having enough things. But we would also say that prosperity should be considered a spiritual moment too. Having a deep connection with yourself, that's prosperity. Having a deep connection to the cosmos and the universe and from the source from which you come, that is prosperity. It can get a little muddled up sometimes in physical linear reality, and we think at the time, right now, it's considered, if I have enough money, then therefore I'm prospering, and therefore I'm going to be okay. But there are also people who have plenty of money who are not prospering, who are in the depths of despair, which most will roll their eyes at. But prosperity should be a spiritual connection. It is the abundance of the eternal that wraps its arms around you and holds you dear throughout the whole life. That can bring about financial prosperity, thing prosperity, relationship prosperity. There's lots of things it can bring, but it first must be established and participated in on a spiritual level, because that's where true prosperity is when you're engaged with spirit and your own soul.
Okay, Veronica, the next one is a friendship. And since you're hanging out with like 3,000 other souls, probably have some friends. So friendship, what is friendship from your perspective?
Friendship is a condition by which you participate with someone else and they are of like mind. They think like you, they feel like you, they love you unconditionally, and they allow you to be who you are in any given moment. That's a friend. Anyone who puts a conditional hard hammer on that and says, well, you must be a certain way to be my friend, they're not your friend. A friend is someone who gets your energy, even if they're not properly aligned with it. I mean, even if it's not a really good give and take, they get it, and they allow you to be who you are in the moment. That is a true friend.
Okay, Veronica, the next concept is trust. From your perspective, what is trust?
Trust is the moment where you know completely that whomever you are participating with or the environment that you're participating with seeks and adheres to the good of your energy. That there is no doubt that when push comes to shove, they will do the right thing. And trust is a very fragile thing sometimes because often those in the linear become so engaged in their own dramas that they become untrustworthy by participating for their own gain and not considering anybody else in the process. So trust, again, is a very fragile, beautiful thing that should be honored, admired, and looked at with great happiness. Trust is something that's not easy to attain, and it's not easy to keep. So it must always be treated with the greatest of respect, because if you have trust with someone, you have everything.
Okay, Veronica, the next word on my list is enlightenment.
Enlightenment is the ability to see beyond your nose, to see beyond your fingertips, and to embrace soulful energy from a linear perspective. Enlightenment means that you are now able not to just look at the things right in front of your face, but to look at things beyond that and decide that that's a good thing, and to pursue what they would call a heavenly approach in all things that you do, and not be encumbered or handicapped by linear, silly things that really don't make any difference in the big picture. So enlightenment is the ability to see the big picture, participate in the big picture, and be an energy that can be linear but also see the distance and go the distance.
Okay, Veronica. And the next word on my list is energy.
Everything is energy. The whole physical linear dynamic is one big energy bowl. The eternal perspective is a vast array of energy that extends out infinitely in all directions. All of you are energy. All of you are participating in energy. The whole construct is built of energy. So energy is pretty a universal term for all.
Okay, I was just disciplined for rifling through my notes and making sound on the paper. I hope you didn't hear it. The next word, Veronica, is jealousy.
Jealousy is not being satisfied with your own creations. And you look to others and their creations and sort of lust after them to say, well, gosh, they have something I don't have, but not realizing that they can create it for themselves. So jealousy is actually a moment of not being happy with your ability to create what you want in your life.
Okay. The next word, Veronica, is joy.
Truest form of joy is connecting to your soul while being in the physical linear and enjoying that infinite connection. There's really nothing else that can bring a joyful moment other than the connection with your soul. And it sometimes can manifest within the linear, with certain events and certain things, but ultimately it is the awareness and the ability to connect fully with your higher self and the spiritual plane.
Okay, I have a few more. I actually have a lot more words, but we're just going to do a few more. The next one is acceptance.
We think acceptance is the highest form of respect and self-respect. There are many things that occur in linear reality that require great focus and acceptance. The ability to understand the difference between that and, being upset about things is important. Accepting someone is probably the greatest gift you can give them, because not everyone's going to adhere to the standards that you've built up in your own head. And for accepting someone for the standards they have built up is a great gift to them. So we'd say it is probably one of the biggest things you can give to someone else, is an acceptance of who they are, what they are, and what's going on.
And only two more on this list. Dreams. How about dreams, Veronica? And do entities dream, and do you dream?
Dreaming is a great tool. It is the space that is a level or two less dimensional space than where you're at. It allows you to go into realms of contemplation, and it's also a place where you can work out things. You go through it in a dream state, and usually you can get more information on a subject and work out different scenarios of how you would handle certain dramatics that happen in your linear life. Everyone should dream. If you're not dreaming, it is important to attempt to, we'll say, loosen up a bit and attempt to find that eternal space so that you can go there. We work with many on that subject, and once someone is able to consciously know that they're dreaming, it helps them quite a bit in their own evolution and growth. We would say all consciousness has the ability to dream. The whole linear reality was created in a dream. The whole life that you're living was created in a dream from another life. So dreaming is probably at the top of the list for gifts and for abilities.
And for the final word on this extensive list of our growth.
It's why you come here. Growth is at best the ability to expand your awareness and expand your consciousness in any reality that you're in. We'd say that most come into physical reality to grow. Now, there are a few other reasons to come in, but predominant one. Energy, soulful energy, has the perspective of expanding at all times. That's what it wants to do. And to be in physical reality and not feel any growth is probably the most stagnant, dull feeling that one can ever feel. And being in a state of non-growth usually propels the individual to decide to, okay, I got to do something here because I'm not growing, I'm stagnant. So growth is very important. That's why you come into physical reality. Okay,
and I'll just mention that if these are my words, but if you guys have some, one or two word concepts like what we've just gone over, send them, put them on the comments or email them to me, and we'll see if we can get them into a future episode. So now I'd like to segue into something completely different, and that is previously stated, Veronica said, and it's a known fact, that not all entities, not all energies ever incarnate, or some come in and they incarnate once or twice, and I say, not for me. Veronica likes physical reality and has incarnated many times, hundreds of times at least. And that's not counting the 1,000 compadres she has in her entity who have each had their own past lives. So I'm going to ask Veronica. Veronica, you've had other lives where you incarnated, and I understand you're not incarnating anymore, but you've had lives where you've incarnated where money was not an issue. You were, I don't know if you were rich, but you didn't worry about eating. And then you've had other incarnations where you were what people would consider poor, where, you know, the slightest thing would be a big deal to get. And so I'd like to ask you if you could describe one of each extreme and why you value so much each of them, because they're so different.
There was a life where it was very difficult for the family that I was born into to feed all of us. And we would say it was around, the year was around 1700s or so. And we were hoping, there was many of us, we had 10 brothers and sisters and 2 parents that were just trying to put some food on the table. It was rather rustic, rather desolate. There were no towns. There were no abilities to go to a fast food restaurant and get some hamburgers. And none of that existed. So we were lucky. We were foraging in the forest practically for food. And a traveling peddler came through. And none of us had shoes. We were always barefoot for our whole lives. Even in the cold winter, we would wrap our feet in rags if we got cold. Peddler came through, and for some reason he had some shoes with him that he wanted. There was a lamb that my father was saving for slaughter, later on to feed us, and the peddler wanted the lamb. And we can remember clearly standing there going, well, Dad, Father, that's our food. And my father at the time said, well, what will you give me for the lamb? And winter was coming. Everyone was cold. He said, well, I'll give each of your children a pair of shoes. Around and said, shoes? Oh, shoes? I mean, we were completely caught off guard by that. And he says, look, I have some that have not sold. I'm carrying them around. They have not sold. They're not in really great condition. But I'll give you shoes for your children if you give me the lamb. Now, our father lamented over this for quite a bit of time. And he finally realized that he could probably go out and hunt like a wild boar or a deer or something to feed us. And the concept of his children having shoes delighted him on a lot of levels, because for him internally, it was a feeling of success that all his children would have shoes. So he agreed. He gave the lamb to the peddler, and the peddler gave us each pair of shoes. Now, we didn't quite know what to do with them. We can remember this clearly. But I was given a pair. They were a little bit too big. And one shoe was a little bit bigger than the other. So it felt a little awkward. But as soon as I can remember so clearly sliding that piece of leather onto my foot, and then there were laces, I had to tie it up, and I didn't know how to make a bow or tie a knot. I didn't know how to do that. So our father had to show us how to do that. And I can remember feeling so rich, so happy. So I couldn't wait to tell my friends that I had shoes. And the best part of it was, as the older siblings would outgrow the shoes, they would be passed down to us. So I literally had shoes in that life for a very long time afterward. Now, they weren't the prettiest things, but walking without shoes and walking with shoes is 2 different things. And you were asking about abundance, about it being poor or being rich. And just by having a pair of shoes, now they weren't pretty, but they felt good. And I felt like a princess wearing them. And yes, I knew about princesses because I had read about them. But the timing of it couldn't have been better, because I was about 10 at the time. It gave me a sense of worth that I was just as good as anyone else. And our Father couldn't have done a better thing for us, because He took us from feeling destitute. He always managed to get food on the table, as meager as it was, but He took us to the point where we weren't barefoot. And trust us, that's a big deal when you're living practically in the forest and have to walk on ground that's rocky or has briar patches in it. I mean, it was a big deal to have a pair of shoes. And I considered that life one of the most poignant ones I've ever had. That the individuality of it and the movement, as small as it appears from the outside, but how huge it was inside of me to go from not having shoes to having shoes, tremendous. And we would say that was probably one of the most poignant lives, because I realized that the definition of rich is varied. I felt rich after having that pair of shoes. Now, I didn't have money. We were still scrounging for food. We were still foraging in the forest for berries and things to eat. But I had shoes. And it changed the whole course of that linear life. Now, of course, there were lives where things were much better, where I incarnated into a family where money wasn't an issue, but perhaps unconditional love was. We didn't have that. But we had money, but somehow money just didn't, give you that warm, fuzzy feeling in that particular life. We think that the life where we were very poor and had no shoes was probably a little bit more expanding of our consciousness than the one where we had a lot of stuff but didn't have the love we needed or didn't have the attention we needed. So there's the difference. And we always equate that one life. It sticks out. We've had thousands of lives. That life sticks out because we remember completely the feeling of the leather on our feet and standing up and going, oh, my feet are warm. Oh, I can walk a little faster because I'm protected. So it was a huge thing. One pair of shoes. Not pretty shoes. One shoe was a little bigger than the other. But I felt immensely wealthy for the rest of that life because of those shoes.
Okay, that was good. I'll just mention also that for those maybe who have been following Veronica for a number of years, that for whatever reason, Bristol, England, I'm just giving a shout out to Bristol. She's had some good lives there. And one of my goals this lifetime is maybe to take Veronica and April to Bristol and go to some tavern that is still there from like the 16 or 1700s or something like that, and have a stout beer with Veronica. It would be fantastic. Okay, at this part of the radio show, I'm going to hand the phone to Veronica so she can give her message to the world, and hold on.
We know that all of you are striving for abundance. You all want abundance is different for every single one of you. But we'd say it's important while you are pursuing that abundant moment to remember the value of connection, the value of acceptance, the value of knowing who you are as a soul is an abundance that you can't purchase. You can't acquire it. You just have to decide to be it. So we would encourage all of you every day to look around yourself and find one thing that made this particular day a good day. You could have had a terrible day, and everything sort of fell apart. Everything you touched fell apart. But respectfully challenge you, even in those days, find one thing that did go well. Now, you might have to sit there and think, and you might have to search, but you find it. And that's what you attach yourself to. You say, okay, this went well. These other things, not so much. I'm going to let those go, and I'm going to put my focus on the one thing that did go well. And I'm going to use it as a seed, and I'm going to plant it in the garden of my energy and say, this is what I'm keeping from this day. The rest of it kind of blew up, but that's okay. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to take this one seed of one good thing that happened and plant it in and I'm going to water it. I'm going to give it energy every day so that it may grow into a beautiful array of flowers or abundant food, whatever. Many times when you're in physical, it's easy to get caught up in the defeat. It's easy to get caught up in, okay, that just blew up. Or this, and a series of events that one after another fall apart. Kind of like associative reality, like April Crawford always says. When that starts happening, you have to stop. Stop, stand still, and go, oh, wait a minute. I know today was, a lot of things didn't go well, but I'm going to find one thing that did. And it could be as simple as your dog greeted you at the door. Hey, you're home. I'm so glad you're home. That is a thing that you can attach to that's positive and use it as a seed in your garden to plant so that you can start bringing forth positive things and not get caught up in the avalanche of negative things. So we encourage all of you and challenge all of you to find one thing every day that's good. One thing that brought a smile to your face. Now, yeah, might have to dig deep on certain days, but we encourage you to dig deep. Because when you're living your life, the more positive you're focused, the more you decide to say, I'm not going to engage all that negativity. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, it's over, thank goodness. I'm going to move forward. And I'm going to find one positive thing to plant in my garden so that I don't continue to bring in all the negativity. Can do it. Even on the worst of days, find one thing.
Thank you, Veronica. That concludes the interesting part of the show. I'll just mention that if you would like to see Veronica speaking, there are actually videos on YouTube. If you search Inner Whispers TV, don't forget the TV part. And there's also some earlier, quite a few. Inner Whispers TV is 3-minute clips. There's earlier interviews that are 10-minute clips, and you can find those if you just search YouTube just search April Crawford on YouTube. That's it. So until next time, this is episode 4. I'm looking forward to episode 5.